Welcome back to AI Market Edge, where we break down complex topics and give you the knowledge you need to make smarter trading decisions.
And it's a good time for that. There's always something new to learn in the markets, especially now.
Right. Like quantum computing, everyone's talking about it, but there are a lot of different opinions out there.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest names in tech are saying it's years or even decades away from being useful, but then you have others who are saying it's already happening.
It's definitely creating some uncertainty in the markets.
For sure. Just look at what happened with Rigetti Computing, RGTI. Their stock price surged almost 50% this week, but that was after a pretty steep drop.
Yeah, that drop. Well, it started with comments from Mark Zuckerberg.
Facebook, right?
Meta.
Yeah, exactly. Meta and Jensen Huang from NVIDIA.
Both of them saying quantum computing just isn't practical yet.
Yeah, pretty much. Zuckerberg even said he's not an expert, but his guesses were at least a decade away from seeing real applications.
A decade, huh?
At least. And Huang, he's thinking even longer, like 15 to 30 years. Wow. And investors did not like hearing that.
No, they didn't. Quantum-related stocks took a hit, like 40%.
Ouch.
Yeah. But then you have Alan Baratz, the CEO of D-Wave.
He's pushing back pretty hard against that narrative, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's saying quantum computing is being used by businesses right now. In fact, D-Wave is doing it.
Solving problems that would take classical computers millions of years, right?
That's what he's saying. They're focusing on things like materials simulation, and these are real problems they're solving.
So it's not just theoretical, like some people are suggesting.
Exactly. It's actually happening. And I think that's why we're seeing so much interest in quantum computing right now. I mean, Amazon just launched a new quantum computing advisory program.
And the U.S. government is putting billions of dollars into research.
Right, exactly. And Baratz thinks this isn't just another dot-com bubble. He sees real value in what's happening.
But even with that recent surge, D-Wave's stock is still down from its peak.
It is.
So is this a buying opportunity, or should investors be cautious?
It's a tough call, honestly. There's definitely still a lot of uncertainty around how quickly quantum computing will become mainstream. But the potential gains for early investors, those could be huge.
High risk, high reward.
Pretty much.
Before we move on to the CPI report, let me just remind everyone to like and subscribe to AI Market Edge for more insights to help you navigate the markets. Okay, so the CPI report, inflation data. Why is this such a big deal for traders?
Well, it gives us a picture of what's happening with inflation, and that directly impacts what the Federal Reserve does with interest rates.
And interest rates affect, well, everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Borrowing costs, stock prices, everything.
So everyone's going to be glued to this report, trying to figure out what it means. What are we expecting to see?
The consensus is that we might see headline inflation go up a little bit.
Because of things like fuel costs.
Right, fuel costs and food prices. They tend to go up this time of year. But what people will really be watching is core inflation.
Core inflation. Now, just to remind everyone, why is that so important?
Well, core inflation takes out those volatile things like food and gas prices, and it's expected to stay at 3.3% for the 5th month in a row.
So it's not just a blip. It's sticking around.
Exactly. And that tells us that certain prices, things like housing and services, are probably going to keep going up.
Which makes things tricky for the Fed.
It does, because now they have to decide if they're going to raise rates, lower them, or just leave them alone.
And the market's kind of split on what they'll do, right?
Yeah. Some people think they'll cut rates this year. Others think they'll actually raise them if inflation doesn't start cooling down.
So this CPI report could really shake things up.
It could. Which is why it's so important to look at the details, not just the overall inflation number. See what's happening with core inflation, especially those service prices. That's where the real story is.
We were talking about the CPI report before the break and how important it is to dig into the details. And that's where AI can be a game changer, right?
Definitely. AI and machine learning, they're amazing at analyzing tons of data. Like the CPI report, they can see patterns and connections that we might miss.
So if someone's thinking, okay, I want to use AI for trading, where do they even start? Any tools or platforms you recommend?
There are a lot of platforms out there now. Some use AI for technical analysis, looking for patterns in charts and trading volume.
I see.
Others use it for sentiment analysis, trying to figure out how the market's feeling based on news and social media.
Interesting.
And some are even using AI to try and predict future market movements.
Wow. It's pretty advanced stuff. But I guess you have to be careful too, right?
Absolutely. AI is powerful, but it's not perfect. It's not a magic crystal ball.
Right.
You still need to do your own research and understand what the algorithms can and can't do.
So it's all about finding that balance, using AI to help you make better decisions, but not just blindly following it.
Exactly. And that's a big part of why we do this show, to help people like you understand all of this and make informed decisions.
Makes sense. Speaking of informed decisions, we were talking about those quantum computing stocks earlier, all that volatility, the potential risks and rewards. For someone who's completely new to this, how do they even start learning more?
There's a lot of information online. Look for industry publications, research papers from universities, even the websites of quantum computing companies themselves.
Oh yeah, they usually have investor relations sections, right?
They do. And those can give you some good insights into their technology and their business plans.
That's a good tip. But I imagine it can be overwhelming too. There's so much to learn.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with something as complex as quantum computing. Just take it step by step. Start with the basics, build up your understanding, and then you can dig deeper into the things that interest you most.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Never. It's a constantly evolving field. There's always something new to learn, even for me.
I bet. Okay, so let's get back to that CPI report. We talked about how it could affect the Fed's interest rate decisions. But what does that really mean for traders and investors? Why should they care?
Well, interest rates affect the whole financial system. Borrowing costs for businesses, returns on investments, it all ties together.
So if the Fed raises interest rates, what could happen to the stock market? To my portfolio?
Usually when interest rates go up, borrowing becomes more expensive, especially for companies. And that can slow down the economy and impact their profits.
I see.
And that can lead to a drop in stock prices, especially in sectors that are really sensitive to interest rate changes.
But of course, the market doesn't always follow the script.
You got it. There are a lot of factors at play. Investor sentiment can change quickly, so you really need to stay informed and understand how things like the CPI report can affect the market.
And that's where AI Market Edge comes in. We're here to help you make sense of it all. And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our deep dives. Now let's dive into some specific trading strategies. Given what we know about this CPI report and how it could affect interest rates, so how can traders use this information about the CPI report and interest rates to their advantage? Are there certain sectors or strategies they should be looking at?
Well, one thing to think about is which sectors tend to do well in different inflation environments.
Okay,
Like if the CPI report shows that inflation is stickier than expected,
it's not going away anytime soon.
right, then sectors like energy and materials, they often benefit from rising prices.
Because they can charge more for what they produce.
Exactly, so those might be worth a look.
That makes sense. And on the flip side, are there sectors that might not do so well if inflation stays high?
Yeah, if the Fed has to keep raising rates, sectors like consumer discretionary and technology could be more vulnerable.
Because they rely on people spending money.
Right, and they can be more sensitive to borrowing costs.
So it's really about understanding how all these pieces fit together. Inflation, interest rates, and the different sectors.
Exactly. And remember, this is just one part of the picture. You still need to do your research, diversify your investments, and manage your risk.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket,
Mm.
especially in a market like this.
Mm.
So to wrap things up, what are the key takeaways for our listeners today? What should they be thinking about as they make their trading decisions?
I think the most important thing is to stay informed. Pay attention to the economic data like the CPI report and understand how it can affect different sectors and the overall market.
Right.
And then use that knowledge to make smart trading decisions, decisions that fit with your own risk tolerance and investment goals.
Great advice. And as always, remember that AI and quantum computing are changing fast. You have to stay ahead of the curve to find the opportunities and avoid the risks. If you haven't already hit that like button and subscribe to the AI Market Edge podcast so you don't miss any of our future deep dives.
Definitely. And don't be afraid to embrace these new technologies, but always be cautious and use your own judgment.
Couldn't agree more. We've covered a lot today. From quantum computing to inflation and how it can affect your trading strategies, hopefully everyone listening is feeling more confident and ready to take on the markets.
That's what we're here for, to give you the knowledge and insights you need to make smart decisions.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and trading. We'll see you next time on the AI Market Edge podcast.